Hello everybody and welcome back to the Creature Flesh Workshop. Now this video is part 2 in our series of making a silicone mask inspired by The Last of Us. So if you missed part 1, please go back and watch that. We roughed out our primary forms and we got a really good foundation to start adding on our secondary forms and then start detailing it. But first, I've realized that I don't have any good raking tools. Now you've probably seen lots of the different tools that I use in the workshop, from clay ribbon tools that are really good for removing material, just like we did on the last video, and fine detailing tools that we use at the end of our sculpt to kind of add all of those finishing touches. Now raking tools are generally used for blending shapes together and just making an overall smoother surface to then work on. So the first thing we're going to do in today's video is make some raking tools. So here we have some new raking tools, and I think they turned out okay. So we've got 3 variations of roughness, I suppose. The largest kind of thread that I did at the beginning is going to give us kind of more of a coarse rake. And then what I did was I twisted the wire a little bit more to make these kind of finer twists in the wire. And then for the finest one, I actually used a guitar string. And then I also made a sharper rake tool out of a little saw blade. As you can see from the video, I tried to make a little square shape at the top, but it snapped. And they're all held on by this epoxy putty, which is a 2-part putty. You mix it together, and then in a few minutes it sets like metal, so it's pretty good. So now we've finished making our new rake tools, we can get back into our sculpt. So we've already laid down some great foundations with the primary forms, so that's giving us a really good basis to kind of work from. But the next thing we need to do is start to add our secondary forms. So they consist of smaller muscles, flaps of skin, nothing too detailed yet. We don't want to get carried away. But this is where it starts getting really exciting because we can really see the sculpt taking shape. So let's get into our secondary forms. Okay, secondary form's pretty much done, and I am super happy about where it's heading at the moment. I think it's really starting to take shape, and you can really start to see what that kind of finish line is going to look like. Now, the final thing that I want to do at this stage is smooth everything out. And the reason for that is just so I can really start to see what the finished sculpt is going to look like. I want to start to get rid of some of these tool marks that we've got on the smoother bits of the sculpt. So then we can start to add those fine details. And that's the really exciting bit. That's when we can pay a lot of attention to detail and really make this a hyper realistic mask. So the way that I'm going to smooth this out is by using one of these, which is a fish tank filter sponge. Now you can get these from Amazon or eBay, anywhere like that. But I found that they're really, really good at taking off the top layer of your sculpt and smoothing everything over, blending all those shapes together. So that's what we're going to do now. So that's our secondary forms done, and I had a lot of fun with that. I think it's really hard to get a project started sometimes. Once you've got those primary and secondary forms on and you can really kind of see the end and what it's going to look like, is when, for me personally, I really start to enjoy it. And the next stage, I think, is what I'm looking forward to the most, is doing those finer details, starting to add the wrinkles and all of that fun stuff. I love wrinkles. And it's great when you start to see the kind of effort that you put in. So that's what we're going to be doing in part 3. We're going to be going in with our fine sculpting tools and adding the finishing touches. But for now, as always, thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next one.